Rich Rodriguez, from KJ Harris, Big Joe, Kevin Koken, T.O.R.
And man, just keep doing what you're doing because you have a message.
I think one of the greatest college running backs ever, obviously in the history of West Virginia, but also if you look at the stats, what he did in college football.
Without further ado, let me say this. Listen, audience, I'm going to tell you right now, I bring a lot of different guests on Relatively Sports with Eugene Napoleon, but this particular individual here is a special guest for many reasons. One of which, he's a true historian. He is an intellect. So we're going to have some really good conversations. I have none other, and let me make sure, I had jotted so many things down about you that I want to make sure I give you your proper.
You're much too kind.
Okay, so I have Mr. Bob Red. He is he's director of athletics and communications and adjunct professor of history at Bluefield University. But more importantly, he is a fellow mountaineer. He's a graduate of WVU, graduated in 1986 to be exact. Am I correct?
You're correct.
And again, when I say that Mr. Bob Red is an historian, he is an historian. And that's what we are going to jump into. So thank you so much, my good brother, for coming on. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be with you.
Let me ask you, I want to go all the way back for a second. Before we get into your time and your days at WVU, what drove you into the love of history and your passion for history? Because drove you in that direction.
You know, I've always liked knowing what happened because I truly believe if you don't know the past, you're doomed to repeat it and fail in the future. So ever since I was young, I really loved history. I had three passions. I had history, baseball, and band. Those are my three passions growing up. And each of those taught me a different thing. History taught me to know and respect the past. Band taught me discipline. And baseball taught me teamwork.
Wow. Obviously, you put those three things together, you're successful. I don't care what business you decide to go into in life. You need all of that to be successful, right?
You do. You need, and most of all, you need the discipline. Sometimes you may not want to do something, say, oh, I'll do it later. But no, you need the discipline to go forth. You need the discipline to carry it through on your commitments. You need the discipline in your relationships. So discipline is very key in everything.
Wow. Now, it's interesting. I met you when I transferred into WVU. My 86 year, I had to sit out.
Yep.
And that was your senior year, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
That was my senior year, correct.
So it's interesting because we go back a long way.
Couple of days.
Couple days and a cup of coffee. Your years at WVU, what was it? What did you find that was really interesting? Because I know, thinking back in my years there from 86 through 89, 90, there was a lot of things that I learned on and off the field at WVU, but I'm so appreciative now that I utilized in my life, in business and everything else. What were some of the things, if you can go back that far back, that you kind of took and said, you know what, I'm gonna put this in my briefcase because I know I'm gonna use this down the road. I'm gonna take this. And what were some of the things that you learned during your time in Morgantown?
You know, again, it goes to discipline. I was a member of the marching band. And as you know, that's a tough organization to get into. I was happy when I got into it, but there was a code of discipline there that was self-imposed. If you didn't do what you needed to do, you couldn't be on that field, just like with the football team. You had to go out. We had to practice every day. We had to carry ourselves in a certain way because we represented the university. We represented the state. So number one was self-discipline. And that comes hard when you're in college and you're on your own for the first time. You know, a lot of us like to go buck wild and do, but there comes a time when you have to reel it in. Again, to me, it all goes back to discipline. I learned how to discipline myself and do things without much supervision. or say for instance your parents or mom and dad being there to tell you what to do. You're on your own and you've got to make the right choice. And I was blessed that I had good seeds planted in me by my parents, uh, faith-based, morally based, that when I did stray away, I knew that I needed to come back and do things. um, I also learned the value of hard work. I learned
Mm.
that if you did not do the work, you would not get the prize. So you had to go, you had to do your work, whether it was in the classroom, whether it was at the radio station where I worked, whether it was on the band practice field. You had to put in the work to get the time done.
You know what's so great about that? Because again, as an athlete, and you being part of, and I liken that to be one and the same. Because, like you said, the time that you have to put in to prepare yourself to be as good as you need to be, for me, that band is the best band in the damn nation. So,
Absolutely. Forget Ohio State. We're the best.
thank you. Thank you. Let me tell you something. I had so much. That was one of the reasons when I visited WVU after transferring in from West Virginia and coming and seeing the pride of West Virginia hit that field. The band was just something that I was always enamored by all schools' bands because to me, that's a stark representation of your university. It truly is. And I would sit there and just gaze at the way that you guys did everything and you put it together and the sound was magnificent and the formation was magnificent and you understood, if you were paying attention, you understood the time and the effort and the work that went into that. So trust and believe, I have a healthy respect for our band and our band members. So thank you, because that was one of the first things that attracted me to WVU was the fact that I'm looking at all of this work in sync at the same time in unison, and the sound was unfreaking believable. So thank you. Let me say that.
You're very welcome, and thank you for that. We were one big family. I'm sure, as you know, the football team was a family. We were a family in the band.
Oh, absolutely. And well, you can see that. You can't do something that in sync and be that unison and not operate as if you were a family. And that's the thing that's beautiful about, like you said, the lead, like the cohesiveness, and you learned the leadership and all these different things from being part of the band. I want to shift to something that I've always wanted to ask in AD. That process, when you are on the other side of it, from being an athlete, being a student, when you get student athletes that come to you and they're complaining about the work, the hard work they got to put in and the work ethic, I would imagine, I guess it may be easier for you to talk to that particular student athlete because you've been through it. Take me through that process. I'm just curious.
Well, the first year that I went over to Bluefield University, there was a young man who was a football player, and he came to me and said he is going to drop out of school second semester and go to the combine. And I said, that's a good dream to have, but don't do it. Get your education, uh, finish up here. To be honest, your chances of doing this are a long, very, very, very long shot, but your education will be with you no matter where you go. Well, this young man stayed in school. Now he is hours away from getting a doctorate and doing real well. And I conversed with him not long ago, and I did not realize the impact I had, but I was proud to have helped him. Um, Things like that, where you're able to see things more clear than a dream, because I dreamed when I was in college. I was going to be the replacement for Peter Jennings on the ABC News, but then reality set in, and no, that's not going to happen. If I work in news, it's going to be behind the scenes. It's going to be something else, not on camera. But just being able to see things from a different perspective and to share it with the students, I think is one of the things that would help them the most.
Wow.
And sometimes it's not what they want to hear.
I was going to say, I liken that to Coach Ford, Garrett Ford. Coach Ford was similar to yourself. He was that, let me sit you down and let me give you a stern dose of reality. We can get back to your dreams, but I want to give you the reality first. And usually once you got the reality, your dreams, you kind of put them in perspective at that point. You know what I mean? Because
right.
He was honest enough to give you that. But I'm gonna tell you, it's people like you that really forge a generation, and you don't see it while you're doing it because you're doing it. It's just pure. You know what I mean? It's authentic, right? It's not until, like you said, after the fact, when that young man came back and told you, you know what? Thank you, because the fruit of your words became the fruit of his work. I'm not sure if that would have happened without your words.
And it's also, to me, part of paying it back, because there were people in my life that did the same thing to me, and they were honest, and it hurt sometimes, but they were honest. And it's my job to make sure that I'm honest to the kids that come to me in
Wow.
their assessments.
Wow. And the funny thing, so as a professor, that's interesting as well, because now not only do you get to interact with them, from the AD's perspective, but now as a professor, do you get the same exact, I guess, which gives you the most, I guess, energy and the most fulfillment, or is it a combination of both of those jobs?
Well, right now, the energy is coming as a professor in the classroom. I'm in my second year teaching, and I really enjoy it. As I've gotten older, to be honest, I've wanted to transition into the classroom. As you know, the life of an athletic department official is demanding.
Yes.
7 days a week, uh, not quite 24 hours a day, but it could be. But I really now enjoy, not to say I don't like being in athletics, but right now the energy and the passion is with teaching and helping kids grow, and in that in that respect.
Wow. Do you have a lot of student athletes in your class?
We are 80% student athlete at Bluefield University. So I think in my last class I had this semester, I had 36, 38 kids. I think of them probably 32 were athletes.
Wow. Now here's the craziest thing. Are they expecting a little leniency? Or do
No,
they come in knowing I gotta work?
actually, they found out that they have to work. And I don't think any of them expected leniency, but they may have tried a little bit during the semester. But for the most part, they come in and they do their work. And I tell them, all you have to do your work. You will be okay. Don't try to scam me. Don't just be straight. If you're
Wow.
sick,
Wow.
say you're sick.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't
yeah, yeah.
don't make up an excuse for not turning in an assignment. And I see you on Facebook out.
Yeah, that. I just saw you.
Uh-huh.
That's incredible. So I love the fact that you spent a good part of your life, again, the journalism part of it and being a historian part of it, the two that married each other, journalism and history. A lot of people think, as you said earlier, if you're in journalism, I've met so many people who felt like their life would be spent in front of the camera. Versus, I personally think, being in business now for 28 years and being behind the scenes in what I do, to be honest with you, I get more gratification behind the scenes. And I think it's only because I spent so much of my life in front of the scene. You know what I mean? In front of the camera.
Yes.
I'm good with being behind there.
I'm totally comfortable being behind the scenes. And I was told once I had a face for radio and a voice for newspaper. And I've worked in all three, but
Right.
yeah, being behind the scenes also gives you an opportunity to work with and develop new talent, no matter what it is, whether it's in history, whether it's in journalism, and to see them grow to their full potential.
Absolutely. And I also think, and again, because you had the experiences in all of those different phases, it's kind of cool because you can actually help to push these young people in whatever area they want to go in. That's the key, I think, a lot of times, especially when you have a young person who's really unsure. You come into college, 17, 18, 19 years old, and I know I did. I speak for myself. I'm not going to put up there. I thought I knew it all.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
so it's great to have someone like you that can sit in front of them and say, I'm hearing you, but let me just give you, here's my experience in that lane, that lane, and that lane. I think that pays big dividends if they're willing to listen.
And I've had interns this year and in the past where we started them out in one phase and like, well, maybe you might work better here. Um, we have one intern that's going to work a Marshall University game. They heard her on one of our broadcasts and like, hey, we'd like to do that. One of our former athletic department officials is now in the Marshall athletic department. He was in the broadcast. He's like, hey, we'd like to have her up for a game. And she's going to go up in the next couple of weeks and do a Marshall basketball game, color commentator. She's a freshman. She started out, we had her doing some other things, but then we decided, hey, let's try her here. And we moved her there. And that's
Wow.
where she's.
And that's where she blossoms. And it's just obviously having the eye and the experience to do that. A lot of times, sometimes I think I'll give a quick sports analogy with that. You might recruit a kid to be a DB, but in high school, he was actually a quarterback.
Yes.
And that might just be his natural position. Conversely to basketball, you got somebody that's a shooter, right? But they could also handle. So they're a combo 1-2 guard. You don't put them at the 3.
No.
So,
but they'll come in and say, well, I played the 5 in high school because I was the tallest kid. No, you're going to be a 2.
That is so very true. I find that to be quite interesting. And that's why I'm so glad this is important, because when the audience get a chance to see this particular episode, a lot of the parents and the young people that look at, my show, they kind of understand what this is all about. It's not just about sports. That's why I'm so gracious and appreciative to have you on, because this is so much more about preparing young people for life and having the right guest on that can speak to that, because it's important and it makes sense. If you had to give advice to young people, even when it comes to making a decision about college, how do you normally, form that conversation? And what do you think some of the most important things are when a young person is trying to select a college?
Well, I'll try to find out their interests, first of all. What are you passionate about? Most of the time, if someone is passionate and has an interest in something, I find that they're going to work harder toward that. And then see actually if they fit what they want to do, if that passion fits their skill set. And if not, maybe try to redirect to where their skill set does fit.
We are trying to recruit some kids here in Jersey. So I want you to do me a favor, if you don't mind.
What's that?
Tell me about Bluefield University.
Bluefield University is a school of about 1,000 students. We're in Bluefield, Virginia, which is right on the border of Bluefield, West Virginia. Actually, I'm sitting in my house in Bluefield, West Virginia, but I drive 3 minutes down the street and I'm at the campus of Bluefield, Virginia. So it's a border town. It's a Christian-oriented school. We're a member of the NAIA, of the Appalachian Athletic Conference, and we have 22 sports that we sponsor at our school.
Wow.
It's a very diverse campus community. I would say I believe the last figures are 25% were people of color. We have nations represented from across the globe, and it's a small little world.
Wow. Now, and it's funny for those parents and young student athletes that are listening, and actually general students as well. The question is always, well, do they give scholarships?
Well, there's scholarships that come. We are a private school, but we really don't have any full rides. You'll get a package based on maybe academic, athletic, plus your federal aid. So yes, we do give scholarships, but I would not say that we give full rides.
That's good to know. Academically, what type of student is Bluefield University looking for?
We would love to have someone that's a 4.0, but if you have a 3.0 or a 2.0, you're welcome at Bluefield University.
Wow.
We take all kinds and types, but naturally, the higher your GPA, the more academic scholarship you would be eligible for.
Wow. These are things, again, that are so very important because, again, being in a position to talk to someone at your level where you can literally speak to a parent or a young student or a young student athlete and say, look, these are the things that you have to have if you're looking at my university. Here's what you need. There's a lot of times and there's a lot of misinformation that floats out here about certain schools, programs, universities, whatever the case may be. And you find out at the 12th hour that what the parent or the student thought they needed, they don't have.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, or what was said from the guidance department level at the high school level, you can't get into this university. So this is the reason why I was asking those type of questions, because I really want people to understand this is a really good school. It's great to have you on because you can speak to it and put that information out there where they would know, you know what, this is an option that I think you should take a look at.
It is an option whether you're a student athlete or whether you're a general student. We have some strong programs in criminal justice, nursing, athletic training, things of that nature, and sport management. So we have some good programs out.
And that's a good one because the more and more I get into talking to young people, when I retired from playing, so I got into the sports agent part of it for about 10 years. And I'm hearing this more and more, this question comes up. Now there's a lot of young people, they want to be sports agents. They want to be behind the scenes in these other organizations from on the business side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because matter of fact, over the last maybe 4 months, I've at least 10 to 15 young people have come to me and said, this is what I want to do. So it's mind-boggling because I'm not sure they're looking at it on the other end of how much money they can make by representing athletes versus here's the work that you got to put in first before you even get to that point.
You've got to do the grunt work first.
Absolutely. I don't think they understand that, but
No.
it's so cool because that's if you have that type of program at Bluefield University and it's a really solid and it's really good program, that's important to put out there. For some reason, I'm not sure why schools don't promote that more. And maybe it's because a lot of students, until you get on campus, maybe you're not sure if that's the direction you want to go. But I'm glad that you said that because that's strong. And I keep hearing that more and more over the last few months. And it could be because of all these big contracts that these young people are hearing that these.
And I want 10%.
That might be what it is. When you're signing, $200 million contract, you're like, hey, wait.
Yeah.
That.
I think I'm going to go back to school and become an agent.
Listen, well, I think that's where this thing is coming from. There's a lot of kids who ask, well, wait a minute. So what percentage do you get out of that? And from being a sports agent, you're in the music business, so you're a manager. So wait a minute, you get 20% to do this, you get 3, 5, 10% to do that. Wait a minute. It's in their head, it starts adding up. But again, they forget you still got to put the work in to get to that point.
Exactly. You have to crawl before you can even stand up.
Listen, absolutely. So what's exciting your day to day when you walk in your office? What excites you? The passion I know behind the driven passion behind the history part of it, but what else drives you to do your job each and every day?
Well, it's knowing that you're able to help the student athletes do something that they love. Planning for a basketball game, getting everything in place so that the game ops run smoothly, so that you have the scores table covered, you have the stats covered, you have the broadcasts covered. Just making sure everything's good for them. And then once that comes off, it's like, we did it. We did it for them.
Wow. How difficult is it for you to work with the whole cohesive unit with the coaches at every level? Do you have to also interact and deal with each coach, from basketball to football to baseball to track and all of that?
I've got to say, we have got a great group of coaches at Bluefield University. Right before we got on, I was just talking to one of UVA's greats, Richard Morgan, who is our head men's basketball coach, and one of our assistant coaches is former WNBA star Andrea Stinson. So
Yes.
we work great with our coaches. Each and every one of them I have a good personal relationship with. And during the season, we talk at least once or twice a week, not counting the game situations, just making sure, hey, do you need this? Do you need that? Who are your roster changes, if any? What can I do for you? This type of thing. So we have a good working relationship.
That's incredible. And I would imagine that also goes in part when you have to deal with when it transitions, when athletes having a little bit difficult time, and I'm not sure, do you get involved with going and maybe talking to some of the professors in part, to advocate for the
I
athlete or
I do
for
not.
people?
I do not get involved with that, but if they're in my class, I will be an advocate for them with their coach.
That's awesome. And that's one of the things I'm gonna tell you. My years at WVU, I found that to be so helpful. We had so many administrators and staff members that was really understanding of the schedule. Now that didn't mean you go in there and you got something due, and they told you, let's say, a month prior, and then you're 3 months late.
Mm-hmm.
No,
And it doesn't
no,
work.
that doesn't work. But I thought it was really cool that we had the relationships where you can go to the professor and, like you said, don't be messing around and BSing them, but really saying, I know I'm about 2 weeks late on this paper. Could I get an extra few days? And they were really gracious with their time and working with you on that. And I think that is such a cool thing when you develop that and when you have that.
And one of the things that we do at BU, all of our coaches will send out a notice to the professor saying, hey, please excuse these student athletes from class. They have a game in South Carolina. They will be traveling these days. They understand all work will be made up. And we work around that. We work with them.
And that's really what it's all about. And I think, again, that whole cohesive, that whole unit thing and working together means so much. Because I think also when you look at it conversely in life, if a young person can understand that now and the communication piece to it, I really do think it helps to prepare them later on. In other words, look, you also have to be an advocate for your own education.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be the bridge, but if I create that bridge, you better be willing to walk across it.
That's right. You can't stand at the other end and expect me to pull you across.
Exactly. And when you walk across it, you better have something in your hand, and it better be that finished assignment.
That's right.
So we both look good in this situation.
Uh-huh.
I got about a minute left. Bob, do me a favor. If you had to say one or two experiences at WVU that really helped to shape you, what would they be? Because I know you won a lot of awards here, at WVU and other places, but I'll go back to that because I think the fans would really want to know your answer to that question. Just one or two of the things that really shaped you at WVU.
One thing, let me think for a second. I'm a native of Southern West Virginia. I was always very self-conscious of my accent, being from McDowell County. And we were in a broadcasting class, and the professor's like, here is how a radio newscast needs to be done. I expected to hear one of my classmates. He played the clip of me, and that really showed me that, hey, I can do this. It kind of put me in another, I don't want to say path, but it put me in another direction or gave me another mindset saying, I do belong here. I can do this. And that was one of the things. And another was just being with my friends in the band and creating friendships with people from all over the country, all different majors, different ethnicities and everything, and being a part of a larger organization. You know, growing up in our hometowns, we have friends based on where we live, based on familial associations. But once you get to college, you have to develop friendships that are outside of your community. So to
Right.
me, being able to develop friendships outside of my comfort circle and me accepting them and they accepting me, that helped me grow as a person.
Wow. Wow. That's one to grow on. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Bob Red, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Eugene. Appreciate you, brother.
And listen, I will be in touch.
Absolutely. You've got my number.
You got it. You take care of yourself. You have a blessed rest of the day and week, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you again.
Thank you.